And she was like, but how do I get it back again? So that was like, oh, it worked. Somebody actually took the Uber and came to the booth.
We're not the company that does a blast of the entire attendee list. I think that that's a losing strategy. We are very intentional in the way that we reach out to these people.
Hello and welcome to the Healthtech Marketing Show. I'm your host, Adam Turinas. I'm the CEO of Health Launchpad. We're one of the presenting sponsors of this show, and Health Launchpad is the pipeline growth company for B2B healthcare. As always, a huge thank you to you for listening. And if you haven't already done so, please hit the follow or subscribe button on whatever app you're using. It really makes a difference to us. And we're always excited to meet new listeners. And, you know, the great thing is the base of this podcast is growing. And a big thank you to the wonderful people at Healthcare Now Radio. They're the 24/7 healthcare-only online radio network. And they have a phenomenal podcast syndication service that's done wonders of extending the reach of this show. We're really grateful to Roberta and Carol for everything. Thank you. Now, today's episode's a little different. We recorded these two interviews on the floor at VIVE in Los Angeles a couple of months ago. And what struck me when I sat down and listened to the recordings afterwards is how much the two guests you're going to hear reinforced each other. You're going to meet Lea Chatham, VP of Marketing at Heidi Health, and Aaron Bours, who's the Chief Marketing Officer at Hyro AI. Two different companies. Okay, they're both AI companies, but they're at somewhat different stages. And Lea and Aaron kept landing in almost exactly the same place. And so rather than run these as separate interviews, what I've done is picked out several themes, and you're going to hear from both Lea and Aaron over the course of the episode as we go through these multiple themes. So let's start with theme number one, which is start with goals, not with tactics. And so before booth design, before you start coming up with all kinds of creative, fun ideas for swag, or before any of that real fun stuff, both guests said the same thing. You have to know what you're actually trying to get out of this, really specifically. Not just we want leads, you need specific, measurable, and honest goals. Are you there for brand? Are you there for pipeline? Are you there for relationships? Whichever one of those is what you're leading with changes everything downstream. And Lea has an approach for this that I think a lot of marketing leaders quietly know, but rarely say out loud. So let's meet Lea Chatham from Heidi Health.
Honestly, that is one of the hardest things, I think, is trying to figure out really clearly what are our goals for this event. I was just having a conversation with someone where we were talking about, is it the case that sometimes events like this are more for brand building, relationship building, partner building, which is fine, as long as you know that's what you're doing going in. Yeah. And you've kind of planned for that and said, well, then my goals are more about, can I measure some brand awareness building, or can I measure by partnerships? If you're really looking at an event and thinking this is a prospect-facing event or a customer-facing event, then you, like with any other marketing program, really have to think about, so then am I trying to get 100 leads? Am I trying to generate a certain amount of pipeline or a certain number of meetings? You should always go into events like every other marketing activity really with the thought of what are my specific goals, and then how am I going to track those and figure out if I've reached those goals? Do I have the systems in place?
Yeah. Do you mind me asking, here with Heidi Health, what's the measure of success for you guys for VIVE and HIMSS? Because you're making a big splash at both, right?
We are. So I did actually just recently do a brand survey so that we would have the opportunity to do a comparison after this evidence launch. Yeah. Because it is so hard to gauge brand awareness growth. And this was such a big launch for us. I really wanted to be able to do that. So we'll rerun that brand survey, down the road and see if this made an impact on a brand scale.
Do a pre and post, right?
Yeah. And then we do have some specific kind of prospecting goals. And we have targeted some very specific audiences and really tried to focus on those audiences with a variety of different activities and events and communications with the goal of we want to get this many kind of meetings and this much pipeline out of the event. Yeah.
Okay. So there's a lead goal as well.
There is.
Yeah. Okay. The second theme is event selection discipline, and specifically follow your ICP. Once you're clear on your goals, the next question is, are you even at the right event? Aaron Bours built Hyro's entire conference strategy around one discipline. Go where your ICP actually is and ignore everything else. Not where the buzz is, not where your competitors are, where your buyers are. His story of how they went from a small kiosk to a 30 by 30 booth is a clinic in patient evidence-based investment. Here's Aaron Bours from Hyro AI.
Sure. I think for marketing strategy in general, it's important to go back to the root and the basics. When you're choosing events, you're looking at where's your ICP. So where is your ideal customer profile? Who is involved in most of these early conversations? Even if you're a startup that hasn't closed the deal yet, who's getting with you past the second, third meeting? Who's not dropping off? And look at the biggest bucket and say, okay, well, which conferences are these people frequenting? And yeah, those communities exist. So hyper target them, be there and build on it. And I think we've done that fairly well. And, we weren't 100% sure at the time that VIVE would be the event that it is today. I mean, it's only 5 years old.
Yeah.
But what we noticed early on in our deals, of course, operations, access, engagement, rev cycle, and the financial sector, these are all players in the decision making. But when we looked at our deals and we looked at who is really pushing for this, who's really trying to overhaul communications, who understands the pain points of all the things that don't connect, the interoperability problem, the tech stack confusion and chaos, it's CIOs. So we understood that pretty early on. We did Chime at the lowest level. We didn't invest anywhere near the way we do today. We had one person who was attending some of these virtual sessions and just access to the membership. Once we understood that Chime was going to be at this Health IT event, that's when we did our first big booth. So the first VIVE is when we did the 10 by 20. The entire decision was around where our ICP lives. That's how I was able to justify it. So I understood that there was a volume of providers that were coming with their CIOs to that event. And so that's where we made our bet. So I would encourage, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't even matter if you're in healthcare. I would encourage that level of discipline in choosing which event to go to and ignore all the noise. It doesn't matter if people tell you, oh, this is an amazing event, you need to be here. No, you don't. You need to be where your customers, your future customers are going to be. And so we were right on the money there. And sure enough, it's been providing value ever since.
Theme 3, experiential as brand expression, not decoration. Here's where it gets fun. Both guests have experiential activations at VIVE this year that genuinely turned heads. But what makes them work isn't that they're cool, it's that they really mean something. Aaron goes first with one of the most ambitious brand narratives I've seen at the Healthtech conference. It's genuinely cool. And Lea goes into why a fleet of branded Ubers is actually part of their mission statement.
We have a strategic narrative. We're talking about ending communication chaos. We're the super Hyros. The whole idea is, we come in where you have dead ends and endless loops. You're in IVR jail. Press 1, press 2, press 20 for more options. You've got these long wait times and friction and low patient satisfaction scores. And this is chaos. This is chaos in the contact center. It's chaos in communications. And so we're moving from chaos to care. And so the whole booth is around that theme. It's about the idea of these villains existing that are vanquished by the super Hyro. And really the super Hyro is the health system and we're just the guide. And so that's what the booth looks like. You've got an arch that looks chaotic. You got clouds, you got evil eyes, and then you kind of gradually see the end of the rainbow. You got a beautiful health system shining with our brand colors, and there's a big super Hyro above them. And it's supposed to give you this kind of feeling of transformation. So that's the booth, at its core and the message we're trying to bring.
And you got a character called the Super Hyro, right? Those little plush toys.
Yeah, exactly. And not only that, so this time around, finally, we brought this to light. It was an idea years ago. I wanted to do a comic book because who in their right mind would do a comic book for, B2B tech company in the healthcare space, right? It's a little bit childish and playful in a space where everyone's a bit buttoned up and serious. We're dealing, at the end of the day, we're dealing with pain, we're dealing with ailments, we're dealing with patients. But I wanted to contextualize what we're doing in a way that I think just stood out and was unique. So we actually turned the Super Hyro into a character for this comic book. And we illustrated the CIO getting all these complaints because the tech stack isn't connected and all these calls are coming in and we're missing patients and patients are churning or not being, acquired as the health system had expected. And it was like care versus chaos and the adventures of, this Super Hyro. So yeah, we really tried to tie everything together. There's a plush doll, there's a comic book. And then what we added this year, so in F1 racing, you've got these tests. It was actually in a Netflix series recently. So F1 race car drivers do these tests where it's about focus. And so you have to catch these batons. It's a game. Basically, long story short, it's a very frustrating game. You stand in front of this thing and you have to test your reflexes, try to catch all these falling batons. So we contextualize that for our own villain and our own hero. So it's called Call Dropper. And the whole idea is no agent in a call center is going to be able to handle all the chaos of patient communications. How are you going to catch all these calls? So you have now going on right now, and they're filming each other doing it. Attendees at VIVE are trying to catch all these batons. They look really funny doing it. It's super entertaining. It's also pretty exhausting if you do it a few times in a row. And yeah, all the batons are labeled with our use cases, patient scheduling and bill paying and prescription refills. And the whole idea is this is a villain you can't vanquish, without some help. And no one can really beat the game. That's the whole point. Although someone today actually caught all 10. So
wow, they should be driving F1s.
Yeah, that's what I said. The average is 2.
Yeah.
So, not even, I think it's, even most people that do it the first time, catch the last one and that's it. The other 9 slip through their fingers for sure. So that was impressive. Yeah. You should be an astronaut or a race car driver.
Yeah.
To me, I think what it means is you're doing something that's memorable, right? Something has some degree of maybe interactivity or something about it that is unique. I think back to Health and Weight Watchers doing the pickleball court.
What? Wait, what?
Weight Watchers did this pickleball court at Health, in the center of Health.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
I didn't go to Health last year.
It was very
brilliant.
cool.
Did they let the puppies into the pickleball courts?
They were next to each other. They were next to each other. Those poor puppies. They were probably give me the ball, give me the ball.
Of course, I did see it. I remember seeing several people actually put it up on LinkedIn. Brilliant.
It was hugely successful.
Yeah.
We were trying to think about what we could do here at VIVE this year. And because VIVE was in LA and the hotels are so spread out, we've done these branded Ubers that are Heidi branded Ubers that are providing free rides. So they're there in the morning and the afternoon. They can take people back and forth between the convention center and their hotels. It just felt like a nice way. Yeah, a nice way to provide something that's very memorable.
Yeah.
In fact, I had a woman come up to me at the booth and she said, I took one of your Ubers over, but I don't know I forgot to write down the information to get it back later. She came by the booth because we had them going to the hotels and she just grabbed one.
Oh, right.
And she was like, but how do I get it back again? So that was it worked. Somebody actually took the Uber and came to the booth and was like, that was great.
Will they take you to the airport? I'm trying to think about when I go back on Wednesday.
But I think those kinds of experiential things, part of it is kind of a right thing for you or your message or your location, something that makes sense and that has that sort of memorable, slightly interactive feature to it, right?
Yeah, those are great. How do you tie something like that experiential to the brand or what the product's about?
Yeah. So in the case of the free Uber rides, Heidi's mission is to double healthcare capacity across the world.
Yeah.
And to do that, we need to really alleviate burden and stress and take away sort of tasks and things like that. So the messaging we had around promoting the Ubers was, our goal is to make everybody's life simpler in healthcare. We want to make your life simpler while you're here at VIVE.
Yeah.
Just grab one of our free cars and, get to and from your hotel.
I love it. It's such a nice, simple tie-in. And I think in the market that you're in, which is ambient AI, is crowded and intense. I mean, it's the most actively market. I haven't been to a show.
Everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I haven't been to a show where you pull out the app and a bridge to suddenly sort of smack you in the face. And so it's kind of cool that you've done something. There's something very distinctive about what you're doing. And tying it to that notion of simplicity.
Yeah.
It's clever. Very clever.
And it only makes sense in certain scenarios because you wouldn't do it at the Venetian where everybody stays at the Venetian and people aren't necessarily Ubering around, right? It makes sense here.
Right.
Because some people will walk to and from hotels, but a lot of people here are just a little too far away, or the neighborhood their hotel in is maybe not as safe. And so providing the cars is a good option here. But it might be something different at another location where the cars don't make sense. And so you really do have to think about what is that experience you could provide that you could tie to your brand that's memorable.
Theme 4, creativity within constraint. One thing that came through clearly in both conversations is that great event marketing isn't about having a big budget. It's about being resourceful and being patient. Lea has a habit she's kept for years, and it's a simple one. And it's one that I think genuinely is worth stealing. And Aaron's story of starting at a kiosk is a reminder that the ideas that look effortless usually took a long time to learn.
Honestly, it's really just like anybody. I get so many emails and so many sales pitches on LinkedIn, email, phone calls. Right. Like some people are obnoxious enough to text me, like somehow they found my phone number and they text me like a sales pitch. And I do anything that sort of jumps out to me as like, oh, that might be something we could use one day in the right situation. Yeah. I kind of throw into a folder and keep, and maybe a year before I go back, but something will come up and then I'll go, oh, that's the perfect time to use this thing that somebody sent me. Like, where was that? And go back and find it, right? And kind of pull it out.
Yeah. So it's important to say, Hyro is an AI native company, but we didn't have AI native funding. As in, we were founded 7 years ago before all the hype around chat and voice AI came out, and I had to stretch $1. I had to be really lean. So we weren't always going to events like VIVE or HIMSS or Health with, a 30 by 30 booth in the entrance. We started small, started in kiosks. We were part of different pavilions, and they have a tiny kiosk. You got like 1 or 2 chairs and a screen, basically. It's a grind. It was a grind for us, and it'll still be a grind for smaller startups listening to this.
The 5th theme is that intimate beats massive. Right-sizing your presence. Both guests push back on the idea that bigger is always better, whether that's booth size, event size, or the number of people in the room. Lea has a really practical approach for when a cocktail reception makes sense versus a dinner for 20. And Aaron makes the point that I think will surprise some people. You don't need a booth at all sometimes if you've got the right thing to offer.
I'm a big fan of hosting or sponsoring smaller, more intimate opportunities, events, and being able to really invite your customers, people who are currently prospects in your pipeline that you're working with, new people, but a chance to really sit down and have like a nice dinner or stand with them and, have a cocktail and chat and do those things. I think those are the places where you tend to get more real conversations and an opportunity to get to know each other a little bit.
Like how many people? Is this like a big thing where you might like 50 to 100 people, or is this like maybe...
It can be. I think it depends a little bit on the event and kind of what your goals are. Like if your goals are, we just want to sort of get a bunch of new people in the door and kind of meet people and have a chance to chat outside the show floor, doing a cocktail party reception with 50 or 100 people makes sense. If you're really trying to sit down and have longer conversations and relationship build with either existing customers or prospects or people you've maybe met but haven't had a chance to talk to, then something that's more like 20 people in a room having dinner for 2 hours is much better for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So that you have to sort of think it through and decide, like, again, what are our goals and who are we trying to spend some time with and what makes sense. It's the same if you're thinking, is it something we're going to sponsor? Maybe there's another sponsor or not. Or are we co-hosting it with a partner? Are we doing it ourselves? Like all those things kind of matter in the bigger picture of like, what's the goal and what are we trying to do?
You can do that without a booth. Everything I said about pre, during, post, you can do with a meeting room if you do it well enough.
Or a dinner.
Or a dinner if you do it well enough. Yeah, absolutely. But you have to set up something that, if you're not going to do a booth and you're not going to have some kind of central hub, you got to have something pretty good to offer. As in, there's got to be a reason why a CIO that's getting 100 emails is going to, of course, choose your dinner.
Yeah.
But there's levels of maturity. We can, we can talk about this for hours. It's like if you're a Series C startup with 50 customers like Hyro, so it's much easier to fill a dinner. Of course, I've got access to 50 CIOs already, so I'll just put them around the table. But when you're just starting out, you got to get more creative than that.
In theme 6, we go into pre, during, and post-event. This is where ROI is won or lost. This is the theme that separates the teams that are ROI positive on events from everyone else. And it's not the booth. It's not the experiential activation. It's the execution wrapper around the whole thing. The outreach you do before, the systems you run during, and the discipline of follow-up afterwards. Aaron is the most systematic I've ever heard anyone on this. And then Lea on how she scales the same discipline across 40 events a year.
So there's pre, during, and post in an event. And it doesn't matter what the booth size is. It doesn't even matter if you're alone. I mean, the pre is probably the most important part. They're all important, but pre is essential. So are you doing the right outreach and warming up these prospects so that when you come to Vive, you already have some level of expectation of who you're meeting with, where you're meeting with them, sessions that you can catch them afterwards at, not harassing them, but just trying to get at least some face time. So the diligence in doing that, the pre-research, and that's the most important piece of why Hyro is successful at an event. So in our marketing team, I also lead the outbound. Outbound is married to field marketing. They don't work separately. Either one of them, if they didn't have their partner, would, in my opinion, not work as a channel. Specifically for us, this is different for, a lot of other
outbound,
industries.
you mean SDRs, yeah?
Yeah, when I say outbound, I mean BDRs, SDRs, basically the people that are doing outreach to your ICPs, your main buyer personas. And for us, we have a very strong BDR team. We have a very strong motion. We're very disciplined. We're not the company that does the blast of the entire attendee list. I think that that's a losing strategy. We are very intentional in the way that we reach out to these people. And sometimes we get, personalized gifting, fun things that are personal to the prospects. And sometimes we don't need to, because as the brand grows, they're already open to meeting with us. But at the end of the day, the pre-bookings are what makes this as successful as it is. So it's letting people know you're going to be around. And it doesn't have to be a booth. It just has to be, oh yeah, I've heard of, or, oh yeah, you reached out. Yeah, let's talk. That warmth is going to cut through a lot of the unprepared people that are just, trying to get some face time without the necessary due diligence ahead of it. And that's important. And then during the event, just being, at this point, we're 19 people at the booth. I mean, it's massive. We got a tool called Happily, and Happily is a marketing tech tool that sits in HubSpot. It layers right on top of HubSpot, and it replaces the lead scanner, because we had enough of these lead scanners that doesn't really connect to anything. It gets jumbled and you can't really set up good automation through that. So basically, follow-ups become that much better if you're organized during the event. So we use this Happily tool, and we are scanning badges, adding notes. You can transcribe things. You can put, that's really easy. It's like a drop down. What are they interested in? What's their pain point? Where do they come from? Who sent them? And all of it's so organized. We know exactly right now how many people came to the booth and are qualified leads for us. We know how many people played the game. We know how many people. So just being organized so that this next part comes into play, which is the follow-up, because nobody's going to remember everything they said to you at an event. You're lucky if they remember your name And, just as lucky if they remember the name of the company. So let alone what you do and what your role is. So it's super important to have these follow-ups really, really tight. That's where revenue gets lost. And that's where events become really, really costly. So, if you go and do the report after of, we spent all this money in a booth. We had all these amazing leads come and we had all these amazing meetings. And guess what? Only 20 out of the 100 of them are now answering us. Well, that's, in my opinion, net loss, not, and I think that that's how people need to look at it. We pay to source every single one of those leads.
Yeah.
Every single one of those leads, I don't look at as a gain. I look at it as if we don't do anything with them, it's a loss. And that's just our kind of MO around events. And doing that and being disciplined about it has allowed us to be ROI positive with Vive for the last 5 years.
Well, I think you have to have a very good demand person or somebody similar, like that role that is the email kind of list building, list managing, email managing person. You just have to have that. So we have sort of a cadence and structure of this is what we do ahead of an event. This is what we do after an event. And we've got some templated structure to that so that he can set all of that up in advance before things really kick in and start getting very busy. And then we customize everything to the event. But the basic template and structure is kind of there. And each event will have different categories of people. So there's sort of a templated piece for those different categories. Like people who came to, say, a cocktail reception versus people who you actually had meetings with, at the booth. But we try to kind of structure all that with the templates, customize the language to the event. And then he manages sort of making sure that all pushes it. The lists get in and the things get pushed out. And we do the same. The next sort of step is more the BDR, SDR follow-up piece that goes for like another month after that. And we have that sort of templated out as well. So we do adjust it for each event, but the core template of this is your follow-up, right, is there. So all they have to do is kind of make some tweaks and personalize.
In the final theme, we'll go into why relationships are the durable ROI. And this is where both guests ultimately land. All the strategy, all the execution, all this experiential stuff, it's in service of one thing: building relationships that protect you when the market gets hard. When budgets tighten, when pilots need more time, and when somebody has to fight for your renewal, relationships are what's left, and they're critical. Aaron closes with something I've been thinking about ever since he said it. And Lea, who's been doing this for decades across some of the biggest health names in healthcare IT, ends with advice that I think applies whether you're a first-time event marketer or a seasoned CMO.
There's no replacement for relationship building in health tech, especially if you're going after enterprise health systems. There aren't enough for you to ignore that aspect of it. And they are also, in my opinion, health IT executives are also expecting that you will bring that warmth to the table in terms of trying to build relationships. So I don't think taking, a couple $100,000 that you would spend on a massive booth at Vive or whatever it is and dropping it into LinkedIn ads or some kind of paid media, I don't necessarily think those are the same. Those are not the same channels at all for marketing. So I really think it's about, who are you going after within these health systems? What is their level of seniority? And if it's a VP C-level, no, even director, if it's a level of seniority that's high enough, you've got to be building those face-to-face relationships because that's what's going to protect you in a pilot that needs more time to show value, or when they're making budget cuts and trying to consolidate a tech stack. That's what's going to protect you, right? Is ROI, but also the relationships you've built along the way. And so that's where we excel. And I would recommend tremendously for marketers to, especially in the world of AI, double down, triple down on that.
Honestly, I would say, I think somebody was saying to me, I can't even tell you're stressed out because some of your people didn't make it because of the bad weather and all those kinds of things. And I said, well, maybe that's just because I have such a good network here and people are stopping by and, saying hi and you feel sort of supported. I think honestly, community networking, having that health marketing network community with you and that group and with Sway.
And Sway as well, of course.
Those two groups and all the people I've met over the last, I mean, I've been doing Sway HitMic for 13, 14 years. That network is great for the support you get from the network when things are busy and crazy and, but it's also great in the information sharing and idea sharing and being able to throw your ideas out to people and kind of get feedback or say like, I was thinking about doing this. What do you think? And I mean, there's a lot of moving parts, especially in like the work I'm doing now. And it's great to have sort of your people and have the network and have the support. And I know it's sort of
get connected.
It's not tactical advice.
No,
but I mean,
it's helpful. It is helpful.
But I think the get connected piece is really important. And if you're a young new marketer, getting connected can really help you just grow in all the aspects of your job.
So there's a lot to take away from these two conversations. And here are 5 things that I suggest you really start to think about. Number 1, start with goals, not with tactics. Before you book the booth, know what success actually looks like. Brand awareness, pipeline, meetings, partnerships. Each one requires a completely different strategy. If you don't know which one you're optimizing for, you can't measure it and you can't improve it. Number 2, go where your ICP is and ignore everything else. The noise around which events to attend is endless. Aaron's framework cuts through all of it. Find out which conferences your buyers actually attend and put your resources there. Everything else is a distraction. Takeaway 3, experiential only works when it means something. The best activations we heard about, Hyro's Chaos to Care booth, Heidi's branded Ubers, they weren't memorable because they were clever. They were memorable because they were connected to a real message. If you can't explain how your activation ties back to your brand, it's decoration, not strategy. 4, pre, during, and post is where ROI lives. Aaron made this point as clearly as I've ever heard it said. Your leads are a cost, not a gain, until you do something with them. The follow-up is where events become profitable or where the money gets left on the table. Build the system before you show up. 5, in health tech, relationships are the durable competitive advantage. Both guests landed here independently. Paid media, big booths, flashy activations, none of it replaces the value of face-to-face trust you build at these events, especially when you're selling into enterprise health systems. Those relationships are what protect you when things get hard. I want to give a big thank you to Lea and Aaron for sitting down with me at VIVE. If you found this useful, please share it with colleagues who are planning their conference strategies right now. It might make them some money or at least help them spend it better. And if you haven't already done so, please hit subscribe in whatever app you're using. It genuinely makes a difference. And by the way, if you want to talk about anything related to B2B healthcare marketing, you can book a call with me down below. There's nothing for sale here. I'm really just happy to chat and bounce ideas around. I'm Adam Turinas, and I'll see you on the next episode.